Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 137. And my special guest today, kicking off this brand new week of podcasts, is none other than Andy Boulton from the band Tokyo Blade. They have just released their brand new album, Dark Revolution, and it is fantastic. I recommend highly going to listen to it right now, going to stream it, going to however you consume your music. Buy the record, buy it. You know, if you love your heavy metal, you'll love this album. It's very much up there this year with the Firewind album that's just been released as well. We had Gus G on the show not long ago. It's great. I'm loving this like resurgence of heavy metal, and it's great. It's great. I love it. Shout out to last week's guests as well, Mike and Ming from Comic Book Man in the Shared Universe, Fire Schwans, Bloodhounds, Hubris, and DJ Woody, which kicked off my brand new DJ series on every Friday, where we're going to have a guest DJ come in, and we're going to talk shop basically. And it's not just going to be scratch DJs either. I've lined up all kinds of DJs, radio DJs, club DJs, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to have plenty of those to kind of, if that's something you're interested in, please obviously continue to download and listen. But Friday's going to be my DJ days. So awesome on that front. Anyone who's listening across any of the platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, etc., please, if you could leave a rating for the show, that would be awesome. I'm trying to get these shows to crop up the little charts area, just so we can get some of these bands a little bit more exposure than they're getting already. Just so it's basically for the bands, and obviously I know it helps myself. I'm not going to deny that for anyone listening going, but yeah, obviously it does help, but I really want to get some of those ratings in, and if you leave a review and stuff, I'll give you a shout out on the show as well, which is fantastic, or I think is fantastic. I've seen a few sort of ratings go up, which is great, but I'd like some words as well. If you're feeling, wordy, that would be great. But yeah, without much further ado, I'm going to leave you with Andy and myself in this interview. I hope you guys enjoy. I'd like to welcome to my show today, I've got Andy Boulton. He is founder and guitarist of Tokyo Blade. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. How are you doing today, Andy?
Well, under the current situation, all things considered, not too bad. Not too badly.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a weird time at the moment. It's weird talking about like promotional stuff and things for like albums and things like you've got out. It's just sort of like, because all you guys are at home at the moment, so I'm like, it's kind of good, but it's also kind of weird. So it's
it's strange for us because in some ways it's good because it's given me so much time to actually create, actually get right into writing for the next album, which is good, but at the end of the day, everybody's thoughts, I'm sure, are really with the people that have lost people and the health workers and, the terrible tragedies that people have had to endure through it.
Yes.
It's an awful thing.
It is indeed, yeah.
But, together we'll kick its ass and we'll get back to normal.
Yeah, totally. That's my sort of like trying to like, whenever I'm feeling a bit like bogged down by it or anything, I always know like, we can get through this. I've got a family, I've had people close to me that have been affected by this, but I know this will pass. It's just got to be taken day by day rather than, as an overall picture. So
absolutely, that's all we can.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're here today to talk about your guys' new album, which is actually out on Friday as we're recording this. It's called Dark Revolution, and it's your ninth studio album from Tokyo Blade. You guys have been going for quite some time, but I must say this album is particularly good. It really because I sort of like when I get sent these releases and stuff, I go through and I just sort of put them on as sort of like background noise. if you will. And anything that really takes my fancy, I suddenly start paying full attention to it. And like, unbeknownst to me, like your first song off the album, Story of a Nobody, I started singing along to it the first time I heard it. It was instantly catchy. It just had that instant hook for me. And I was like, you know what? I want to get these guys in. And then obviously I continue to listen to the rest of the album. Really love Perfect Enemy, and I'm trying to think of the other song names. Well, there was a few on there, but no, it's really a powerful album. I'm like, I've been aware of you guys for quite some time. Like I say, you've been going for a while. You've got a few albums out, so I went back and listened to a few of your older albums and stuff. But I really found this one to be like just really, like, it instantly grabbed me. Was that something that you felt like sort of making it?
I think, I do. Alan, I write all the music and basically put the song together. And I've got a home studio where, you know, that all happens and takes place. And then I throw basically the completed song at Alan. But all it is, you know, the kind of what I've got in mind for the verse, the bridge, and the chorus.
Yeah.
And that's it. He writes all the melodies and all the lyrics. So he normally takes it away and then comes back. And Alan's big strength has always been hooks. You know, he's always he puts a lot of time and effort into you know, getting a good sort of catchy, hooky chorus.
Yeah.
On songs. And I think, I think the big difference between this and the last, the big difference for us came with having the original lineup back together.
Yeah.
And when the original lineup came back together, and I was working with Alan again, of course, Alan and I wrote the first and second album together, which were the two albums that kind of got Tokyo Blade out into the limelight. And so working with Alan again is a joy, and I think we would have had. With Unbroken, the album just before this, the only thing that I felt with Unbroken was that the mix on the, I didn't actually do the mix. I recorded the album. That was all recorded here. Yeah. But the mix was done by somebody else, and that was really because I hadn't ever really mixed a commercial release before. Okay. And I was a little bit apprehensive about doing it. You know, I thought, I'm going to let somebody else that's kind of, a bit further up the line do this. It was a good mix, but I think it was a bit. It was safe. It was a very safe mix. There was power in anything, and that's what I really felt was lacking. And Alan said to me, "Look, I think you could mix it, and I think you could mix it better than that." The original demos that we did had more kick and had more power in them. And I think that's what we should do for Dark Revolution. So that was the conscious decision as regards the overall sound of things. And then I think, world events and Alan and I are both got very similar views, sort of politically and socially, and as regards, all of the issues that concern everybody, or certainly should concern everybody. Which is, people's freedoms being stripped away, under the name of terrorism, the decimation of the planet, the large-scale disasters we've seen recently. And I think that certainly influenced Alan and I to write something that was perhaps much more aggressive than an album than Unbroken.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it all came from, and I think we were aware that it was. I mean, in places, Alan would say to me, "Do you think he would play? He would come in and come over and do his vocals, and he'd record his vocals, and he'd finish doing like a verse, a bridge, and a chorus, and then he'd stick his head out of the vocal booth and say to me, "Do you think that's too angry?" And I'd say, "No, I don't think it's too angry. I think you're fine. Don't worry about it." And I used to keep telling him that, if he went in and he tried to tame it down, I'd say, "Al, you're losing the gur factor. We need more gur in it." So I think that was the big, that was probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there to hear in as much, like I said, I went back and listened, and this album, like, instantly kind of, it does have that power element. It is a lot more aggressive. It's kind of harks back to sort of like earlier days where you kind of had that raw sound to you.
Yeah,
but I was just sort of like, you know, getting back together with like original lineups and stuff like that. Like you said, you got back with Alan and everything. What was that kind of like? What was that kind of like, you know, back together writing again? I know it was kind of on and off throughout the history of Tokyo Blade, but what was it kind of like, you know, having this lineup still like almost 40 years later? It's, you know, it's quite a testament.
Well, it is, and it's kind of like, you know, to use a cliche, it's kind of like an old shirt. You know, it might have a few holes in it, and it might not be the best shirt in the world. It might not be perfect, but it's comfortable. Yeah, and you feel comfortable in it, and you know, that's how I would put it. It's easier now than it was back then, for a variety of reasons, but I think one of the reasons would have to be that, you know, when you're younger, you tend to be, I think, people say you get less tolerant when you get older, but I think really with people that you know, you get more tolerant when you get older because you understand. So when you're younger, you know, you have your arguments and your falling outs and everything else, and you think, oh, that guy's such a twat, you know, and you get uptight about it, you know, and that goes for what they would think about me. So, and then as you get older, you kind of just accept, oh, that's the way he is, you know, and you don't kind of take it to heart so much. It's difficult being a musician because for many reasons, but one of the reasons is, you know, that musicians are a kind of we are an odd bunch. We do think out of the box a bit, and we do have, you know, problems with wanting our own way and being sort of temperamental and that whole kind of thing. I wouldn't say so much ego-driven. I don't think there's any egos in the band at all. We're very down to earth because that's who we are. We're just guys that make records and play instruments. We're not, you know, we're not gods or anything. So, and it's always very nice when the fans meet us that, you know, they say, oh, you know, you're so down to earth, you're so easy to get on with. And we're like, well, sure, yeah, we're nothing. We're just who we are, you know.
We're people, you know.
We're people, yeah. When you get up the ladder, it's very easy for some people to sort of lose sight of that and lose sight of their own identity and get sort of sucked into this world of, you know, oh, I'm a kind of mega star. I deserve to be treated like this, and I deserve this, deserve that, and you know, and then unfortunately a lot of them then just become assholes. But it's part of, you know, some of that is the lifestyle and the kind of weirdness of it, really, I suppose.
Yeah, there is a weird bubble around it. I've had my brushes with the music industry in the past, being actively part of it, and obviously doing things like this with interviews. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, when I was younger, there was a lot of, you know, it was kind of, I don't know, it was a kind of wash between ego and a vision, if you will. Like, you have a certain vision for certain creative aspects, and your vision must be carried out the way you want. You know, I had that, like, early days in my sort of, like, musical career. Over the years, like you say, you sort of start building up a sort of, like, I don't know if it's tolerance or if you just stop caring. You know, you still appreciate what you're making, but you just don't, you understand the process. You do get understanding, you understand that where this person is right now compared to where you are right now, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I'm sort of one of these people that's I'm hyper creative. And it's something that it's just in me. I can't do anything about it. It's been there from day one. It's always been there. And Alan used to call, and back in the old days, Alan used to call me. Well, Alan actually said to me one day, he was asking me about some riff that I played the day before, and I said, oh, I don't know. And he said, oh, fucking hell, Mr. Disposable. And I said, what do you mean, Mr. Disposable? What do you mean by that? And he said, yeah, he said, the minute you've done something, you're on to the next thing, and you've like, yeah, I've done that. And I am like that. And I'm now at the age where I can appreciate that other people aren't. So whilst I might get frustrated at people's procrastination, thinking, oh, come on, why don't they want to get over here and get this done? I also take the line that, they're not you. It's you that wants this. It's you that wants to create this, get it finished, move on to the next thing. They're still kind of bathing in what they've got at the moment. So kind of that sort of situation.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I totally align with that. I'm just like, it's actually good to hear from someone is still in the music industry. I say longer than I was. I was in it for about 10, 15 years myself, but it's just sort of like, it's great, and I'm always interested to sort of like hear about like how you've sort of witnessed the industry change over the years you've been active, because like going back to sort of the early days of where record sales were quite dominant. And then coming through the sort of like, we're coming out, I guess, the other side of the digital era at the moment. But I kind of like, when I was in the music industry, I was kind of at the cusp of iTunes becoming a big platform for sales, and piracy sort of becoming a bit easy. Well, I'll say a bit easier to do. It was easy before. You could record stuff on a tape. It was just you could get access to a lot more online. But no, I was just curious as to sort of see how you sort of like how you've adapted. Because obviously you came up in the industry, like I say, when record sales were what people really looked at, and as to now, where you're promoting an album now, how has that changed for you guys?
Yeah, a very good point, very good question. In terms of financially, it's made no difference to us whatsoever, because we got ripped off so bad by our record company in the early days. We never saw a penny. And we haven't seen a penny since. So, or very little. I mean, it's to be not even worth mentioning. What we went out of 4 years of doing this. So I guess the big question would be, particularly in this day and age with digital downloads, and as you say, it was easy enough back in the day to tape an album, but you couldn't distribute it to anybody except for your friends.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, go online and you'll find it. Whether you go on Pirate Bay or it'll be there.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, you've got Russians and Chinese like basically copying your albums, forging them and selling them on eBay. That shit happens.
Yeah.
And so the question would be, I think, for a lot of people, is why bother? And certainly a lot of bands take that attitude towards it and say, well, we might as well give the fucking thing away. We're not going to sell any to make it worthwhile. So if we're going to do another album, let's just do it and then just give it away. That's fine. I get that, and that's fine. And if we were in their situation financially, we'd be doing the same. Unfortunately, they're going out and charging, say, 200 quid a ticket to see them. When they tour, they don't get 200 quid a ticket when we go out.
No.
So we've got to try and at least get the record company's money back. I mean, technically, because I have my own studio, it hasn't cost us a penny to do this album other than my time.
Yeah.
Which, again, some people would say, I'm not going to give up my time to do something that I'm not going to get paid for. Well, if you're creative, that money is the last. Money isn't my God, frankly.
Yeah.
Which is just as well. But it's not my God. I'm not. I have no interest in money. If I've got it, I spend it. If I don't, I don't. And it's as simple as that. So I'm just happy to carry on creating. And one of the things that keeps me creating, keeps me at the moment so productive with creation, is I don't know how much longer I'll be doing this for. Next year I'll be 60. How long before I get arthritis? Will I get taken out by this virus? Will I get hit by a bus tomorrow? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, whilst I've still got it in me and I've got the facilities to do it, I want to create. That's what I want to do.
No, that's. I mean, you've got a passion for the creative there, which is absolutely amazing. Still, you've had a lot of time in this industry, and a lot of people are kind of like, you know, can get very jaded. Obviously you've had experience of being that with your early labels, sort of making sure that just making sure they got all the money. You know, and you know, it's tough enough out there of just trying to sort of like make ends meet as a musician anyway. But obviously over the years you've kind of like worked out ways of, you know, letting that creative process work for you in certain aspects, you know, through whatever music you're making, not just with Tokyo Blade, but, you know, if you're doing any other sort of like other outlets, you know, I know a few musicians that do stuff for like television and film, and, you know, they just write certain things just to have like on an advert kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, there's people that do that kind of thing. I mean, I've done a couple of albums recently with a couple of friends of mine, both vocalists. One was with Chris Gillen, who was vocalist for Tokyo Blade for a short while. Chris is from Detroit, and we met when I was over in the States, because I was over there for some time, and we met and we had a very mutual respect for each other and a great friendship. So we did an album called Gillen and the Villains, which is released, I think, on iTunes and CD Baby, and it's definitely on YouTube.
Cool.
Which I'm currently remixing at the moment, because it wasn't mixed by me. It was actually mixed at Abbey Road, but guy that didn't do a terrifically good job of it. I'm remixing that, and I've also done an album to be released on Dissonance later on this year with another friend of mine, Adrian O'Shaughnessy, and that's something else. It's still hard rock. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, It would be silly of me to try and start doing, you know, something with funk or stuff like that. It wouldn't be any point. So, you know, that keeps, those things keep me busy and keep me, you know, and there's no pressure with those. I'm never going to have to tour with those bands, and they're not neither of those bands or those projects are my priority. My priority is obviously Tokyo Blade, because Tokyo Blade has a name, and Tokyo Blade is a known quantity.
Yeah.
For bands starting up now, it must be in a lot of ways very soul destroying, because they go into it knowing they're going to earn jack shit from sales. You know, they can do an album and then they're going to be lucky if they recoup from it.
Yeah. And the sort of payouts from like the sort of the new like ways of releasing music aren't that great either.
No. So it's a very difficult time, you know, to be a new band and to get the in some ways you can get exposure more easily now because of the internet, but in other ways you've still got to get people coming to your website or coming to your SoundCloud page or your Facebook page, whatever, you know, to build up that following.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. It's like a level playing field. But when it comes to releasing things now, which it wasn't before, it was always kind of like a label. Someone would have to pay for press, you know, all the kind of ins and outs of that. But now you can get, like, say, you can get a CD Baby or whatever to just basically instantly distribute your music. And it goes out to all the sort of like platforms that are available to people. But there's still an element of I think people they're still learning. There are ways of obviously getting good promotion, but it's still very foggy, I feel.
Yeah, and you know, it's getting people. You know, the criminals obviously are the corporations. Corporations like Spotify and all these other platforms that are paying peanuts to the artists, and that's going to. The problem is going to come. When the big guys get too old to do it anymore. And then you're going to have bands around that are not going to be able to make any money at all. They're not going to make any money out of live work. They're not going to make any money out of sales. I mean, you'd have to sell a phenomenal amount on iTunes to make anything worth even having. Publishing rights are worth nothing, next to nothing these days also.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't think it's a good, you know, it's a good time for music. Personally,
no, but I think it's coming round. That's the sort of like positives I see for it, because I see like the physical product becoming dominant again. which is which I think is great, because that's like, it's a real, like, especially as a music collector, I love vinyl. You know, my vinyl is my thing. It always has been for the 40 years I've been alive. And you know, when bands release stuff on vinyl, that's the one I go to these days, because it's like back owning sort of like an album that was just released on a digital format. You know, I didn't feel like I owned it in any way. Not that, you know, I like owning a piece of art. You know, and
absolutely, that's a really good point. And as a matter of fact, I've probably got almost 2 terabytes of music, and I can tell you now that 3/4 of that I've downloaded, I've never even listened to, because it doesn't have. You know, when I was a kid, when I got into music, I got into music very early when I was a kid, and you know, I'd save up my paper round money, and go into town on a Saturday, not every Saturday because I couldn't afford it, but I'd go in on the bus, I'd go in, I'd buy my vinyl album, you know, I'd look through the racks and racks of vinyl and like pick out new bands and think, oh, you know, and you know, it's how I discovered Van Halen 1. You know, I was literally looking through the rack, and the guy in the record shop knew me really well, and he said, oh, this has just come in, you know, from some American band, and I just liked the look of the cover. I thought, these guys look like they can rock.
Yeah.
Took it home, put it on, and went, holy shit. But, you know, I remember going home on the bus, and you'd open up the album, you'd be able to look at the pictures and the sleeve notes and the lyrics, and it was a tangible, as you say, and you're exactly right, it was a tangible product. You could hold, you paid for it, you could hold it in your hands, you felt like you had something for your money and something that was going to be with you for your lifetime.
Yeah.
Whereas an MP3, it doesn't have a physical appearance. It doesn't have any, you know what I mean? There's nothing there.
Yeah, I think it was like, because you could get it for free. I think that's what really cheap it, you know, because nothing, you know, if anything's free, I mean, it's obvious, it has no value. You know, you give something away for free, you know, generally there's no value in it. You know, there's no such thing as a rare MP3 as such, you know, unless it was a song you recorded and lost. But, you know, it's not like you could pick up, you know, you go on eBay and someone's selling the MP3, a rare MP3. Yeah. You know, you could get on there, you could pick up that rare, like, misprinted vinyl or this misprinted CD or whatever, you know, whatever run it was, discontinued, you know, front covers and whatnot. But yeah, no, it was just like not having the value in it initially. Like, obviously it came out as a format and it was great because you could get like thousands of songs in your pocket, which was, you know, that was very like convenient. Not that you'd listen to all those thousands of songs, but before it was a large tape, like CD Walkman or a tape player or anything like that, that was attached like on your belt buckle, you know.
Yeah. And of course, the thing is with vinyl is that it's the only true medium with you know, unlimited bit quality. I mean, when I record here, like everybody else, I record in 24-bit, but CD only plays up to 16-bit because everything's compressed. So you do lose a lot of quality even going from the master to CD. When you go from CD to MP3, you're losing an amazing amount of quality. You know, even a good quality CD is something like a 320 KB MP3. You're still losing like a massive amount of quality. Whereas when you put on a vinyl, that is truly it's uncompressed. It is the best that you're going to hear it. And people are going to say, yeah, but you got the scratches and you've got the thing. Well, yeah, you do. But in our genre of music, you're hardly going to hear the odd scratch.
Yeah.
Except for in the gaps between the songs. So I don't think it's a major problem.
No, it's not.
But, you know, it's quality and the tangibility of owning it that I think is going to bring it back. If anything is going to bring it back, it's going to be that.
Yeah,
you know?
No, definitely.
I mean, I know I've had people here that are 20, 30 years younger than me that have come over to my place and I've had an album on and they've gone, Jesus, I've never noticed. I've listened to that album a zillion times. I've never noticed that bit. That sound is so good. You know, and I'm going, well, it's vinyl. It's you won't hear it better.
Yeah.
You know, that's because you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, I think you're right. And I think if anything is going to save it, it's going to be that.
Definitely. Well, what I'd like to know, because we almost touched on it during that last bit about vinyl and everything, but if you could pinpoint 3 albums that really kind of got you into the position you are today. So the one that kind of made you want to pick up a guitar, the one that made you wanted to do music, things like that. Why would you sort of place those?
Oh, I probably wouldn't be able to put them in order.
Oh, no, that's fine. Just 3 albums I'm after.
But 3 albums that launched me on my path. The first one would definitely be, without a shadow of a doubt, Queen 2.
Oh, nice.
The first time I actually heard a stereo system, a proper stereo system, because I had a mono record player, we were 4. And so I was lucky to have that, a friend of mine, his father was quite well off. He owned a stereo, and his elder brother had just gone out and bought Queen 2. It had only just been released.
Yeah.
And I was over at his house, and his brother put on, it was side black and side white on that album, and he put on side black, and the first track was Ogre Battle, and this kind of jet noise at the beginning sweeps from left to right, and then this guitar riff comes thundering in with the drums and the vocals, and I just literally sat there and went, fuck, this is what I want to do. Nice. I want to do this. I don't know how to do it, but I want to do it.
Very
so
nice.
That would definitely be number 1.
Excellent.
I think again, in no order of preference, but I think it would be, it's a difficult one. It's so difficult. 3. It would be either Led Zeppelin 2,
okay, or
Dark Side of the Moon would be there. And definitely Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy would be there.
Oh, nice. That's a good one. I like that.
Kind of 4, but I really can't make up my mind between Led Zeppelin 2 and Dark Side of the Moon, because I played them both to death. I wore both of those albums out completely.
Yeah, no, same here. I've got both those on vinyl still. Sort of probably, I think they are dated back near around then, probably the second press or whatever. But I wore out Dark Side of the Moon a few times.
I've actually got 2 copies of that now. I've got the copy that I never play on sort of heavy duty vinyl, which is never ever going to be played, and then I've got the copy that I play. So I've got 2 copies.
Yeah, no, I tend to pick up the cheapest, like the second-hand one in the records, like the sort of general record store. That's where I've kind of gone to, because I can get them, between sort of like, £5 and £10 if I need a copy. I've got a copy on CD as well if I want it, and I've always wanted, like, some of their other albums they've done, like with the quadraphonic sound and stuff like that. But I've never had a system to, like, actually play that sort of stuff. So
no, that's the problem, isn't it? It's all very well quadraphonic, but if you haven't got a quadraphonic system, it's kind of a bit wasted.
It is. But the effort's there, and one of my friends had a surround sound system, so I managed to actually listen to some of it, and I had the same sort of effect that the Queen 2 album had on you, that had on me. It was just like hearing the bell ringing around you, or the bee buzzing around you and stuff like that. And I was like, this is just...
It's incredible.
It is. And you don't get that these days, I don't think, on the scale of that anyway.
No, that's true. Yeah. A lot of that is one of the things about it. The other thing about the digital side of music is it's great for me because I've got my own studio running on a 2015 iMac.
Yep.
Able to do amazing stuff with that. Whereas back in the day, you were limited. I mean, when it really broke through to 24 tracks, you still only had 24 tracks to work with.
Yeah.
And so you back to the original copies of stuff. And I'm fortunate enough to have access to a few of those. Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, there's where everything should be assigned to a track. They've had to put all sorts of things on all kinds of different tracks. One track will start off as a backing vocal track, and then there's a guitar solo in the middle of it because of space.
Yeah.
But the other good thing about that time was that if you wanted a sound on an album like Floyd with Money or Time, you had to go and find. You had to go and literally physically record those sounds. You had to make those sounds from something. Yeah. Whereas now you can sample stuff, you can download stuff. In a lot of ways, it was a much more creative time because those people had to create those sounds from nothing.
Yeah.
So it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But,
yeah. No, I miss that kind of like, that creative process. I mean, there are still some artists that go out there and record, the wind flowing around a flower kind of stuff, like getting those sort of sample sounds and stuff like that, which is great. But there was none of that kind of ingenuity of like Zeppelin, like, or whoever, like recording their drums on a staircase, or throwing the drums down the stair, stuff like that. The stuff of legend that you hear.
Stories that you hear that you think, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And now you can synthesize those sounds, which is amazing as well. So.
Just a quick side note, when we did 1,000 Men Strong, which is 7-8 years ago, something like that, we worked with Chris Sangarades was the producer, and he was telling us that the Judas Priest track Metal Gods, to get the clanking sound of the kind of robotic Metal Gods thing, they were out in the kitchen dropping the cutlery tray on the floor and recording it.
Amazing.
And it's stuff like that. It's just an interesting little, you think, wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I'm going to keep that one as well, because I hadn't heard that one, and I like Judas Priest. So, it was
apparently, Metal Gods. I'm sure it's the track Metal Gods. There's some clanking going on in it, or at the beginning of it, and it was the cutlery tray that was recorded and then doctored and played around with to get a kind of a clanky.
That's amazing.
Metal sound.
I love that. Well, my final question for you, Andy, is what hobbies do you have away from music? I know you kind of like, when you're not with Tokyo Blade or in your studio, is there anything else that you do?
Learning. Just, I love to learn. I duffed my way through school, unfortunately, because the minute I got into playing guitar, that was all I was interested in. I skipped every lesson. And the lessons I went to, I was the class clown, and I just asked about and did jack shit, really. So these days I love to learn. I'm very keen on physics. I'm very keen on philosophy, things like that. I don't tend to understand, all of it, or not a large part of it when it comes to sort of string theory and quantum physics. It takes some kind of some serious thinking to get your head around it. But I love learning about that and natural history. Yeah. So yeah, that would be, I think, my other main passion.
That's really good. That's like learning. I always sort of say to people that, because in my sort of like day job, I encounter people that don't need or feel they don't need to learn anymore. I work in a sort of technical sort of like job role, but people have like, oh, I don't want to learn anymore. Can you just do this for me? And I've always found, I've never said it to a customer, but I've always found that once you stop learning, that's it. What are you doing? Because like you, I kind of like, I sort of made my way through school, but it wasn't something that I was like enthralled with. And, I sort of like had a lot of like other distractions or other passions at the time. And, and like since then I've, I read a lot more than I used to. I'm learning more, obviously, I've got a family, so I'm helping my kids learn as well. So it's sort of like passing that on, and they're very kind of receptive to learning, which is really good. A lot more receptive than I was, which is great, and I, like I said, I'm reading more, I'm writing more, I'm doing things like this, sort of producing, this podcast, this radio show, this, I DJ on a regular basis and all that kind of stuff. I did before we were sort of shut down. But, all things like that. And there's always aspects that I'm always sort of picking up, and I don't want to stop learning.
No, I totally get that, and I'm exactly the same. During this, I've been off of work for about 8 weeks now, and I'll sit here and I'll watch stuff on all the stuff I'm interested in, but at the same time, I'll practice, and that's because I want to do new things on guitar. I want to do, I listen back to things I've done and think, oh, I've done that. Let's do something new. So, I've been working on alternate picking, and I've kind of tripled the speed that I can alternate pick at.
Oh, nice!
Just because I've sat here with the guitar in my hands, just literally on autopilot, just doing stuff like that. to bring some new techniques into my playing. So, you're never too old to learn, and there's so much to learn. It's a big world.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, last year I set myself a challenge to do. Because I'm a vinyl DJ. I do the sort of scratch performance DJ as well, the sort of hip hop side of things. Beat juggling, scratching noises. And last year I set myself to produce a video every day of me doing that for half a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, and I posted them all online. But it was by the end of it, watching that first video, watching the sort of coming up to the last video, the sort of the accuracy and speed and sort of finesse, I guess, of doing it. And it is when you sit down and do it. Every evening I was doing this, and and it just sort of astounded me that I got back to a level where I kind of left it at. Because I was sort of doing it back when I was younger, then I stopped for a long time, probably a good sort of almost 7 to 10 years or so, and then as I sort of got back into it, got my turntables out of storage, it just sort of, you're amazing how quickly, or how much you do progress in a relatively short time. Looking at these videos that I produced, I could see where the improvements started to sort of kick in, and it's amazing. Some of the things I can do now, I couldn't do back when I was doing it before,
No, absolutely. In 2 months, as I say, I've tripled the speed that I can alternate pick at, because I've always been a very legato player.
Yeah.
Really got into speed picking. And I thought, let's try it. What have I got? I've got time on my hands. That's the thing that I find incredible, is the people that go, oh, I just don't know what to do with myself. And you're like, my God, you're living in an age where you can learn anything. Go on YouTube, learn to cook, learn a new language, do something constructive with your fucking time.
Yeah.
You've got a 100-year-old guy walking up and down his garden raising fuck knows how many millions for the NHS.
Yep.
If he can do that, you can do something. Maybe you can't raise millions for the NHS. You're not going to raise anything, but do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Find something to do. To learn something. Learn a new skill. Nothing. It's never too late, and it's always good to have those skills. You never know when you're going to never. Even if you don't, you could, at least it's something you've accomplished. You've done it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, coming out the other side of this, what we're going through right now, and not saying that everyone should do something. If they don't feel like doing it, don't do it, but don't complain about not doing it.
Exactly. If you want to lie about all day watching TV, fine. That's great. I have no problem with that at all. But don't whine about it. If don't come up with that, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. Find something to do.
Yeah. Yeah, find something that you used to be what you used to be into, and that's what I've kind of done. I found a few things that I used to be into, and I'm like, well, let's revisit that. Let's go there, and I have done.
No.
I've created something from it. So it's just kind of just sort of finding something between, because obviously I'm quite fortunate with my work. They're paying me to be at home. Thankfully, I've not been furloughed or anything like that. But I've got that. During the day to sort of keep my mind active. They're giving us training, stuff like that, which is awesome. But no, between the rest of the time, between family time and stuff, I've sort of developed other hobbies. I used to have when I was sort of 20 years younger, that I kind of revisited. And sort of picking up new things. There's a load of free courses online and stuff that I'm doing. Open University, I've got some basic courses on various subjects.
All right, cool.
And I've taken up, I've started they've got a creative writing one, so I'm doing that to kind of bolster my storytelling abilities and stuff like that. So
brilliant.
Yeah, but there's plenty of resource for everyone. So
yeah, that's it. We've got the internet. Use
exactly.
it, use it to your advantage. Learn to do something.
Yeah.
It's all there. There'll be somebody somewhere on YouTube showing you how to strip down a Cortina engine to, how to plant bulbs in the garden. It's just all there.
Yep. Yep. Totally.
So go looking for it. Do something.
Yeah.
If not, and you're just happy sitting around watching TV, well, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. Binge that TV show. It's fine. Cool. Well, Andy, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate this chat we had. I really appreciate your time in doing this and everything as well. I really do.
Thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, no worries.
stay safe, and I hope to speak to you very soon.
Yes, definitely, and hopefully once this thing kicks out, I'll be able to see you guys live as well. That's my next sort of once we sort of get past this. So
come and find me, and we'll have a beer or two.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much, Andy.
Thanks, Benjamin. Cheers.
Cool. Have a good one, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.